Hello everybody, welcome to the Centbee Show. I'm your host Lorien Gamaroff and my co-host is Kage Ntshingila. How are you doing, Kage?
Good yourself, Miss G.
I'm well, very good. I'm happy and raring to go to talk about Centbee and talk about Bitcoin and dispel the myths.
Yeah.
And yourself?
Ah man, awesome, man. Favorite part of the week, when we get to record, get to put a word out there about Centbee. This is my happy time, yo.
Yes, definitely, yes.
Yeah.
And every week it's the question is always, what are we going to talk about? Because it is the Centbee Show, and we mostly want to talk about Centbee and what is available and all that, but it is a finite app.
Yeah.
But luckily, we've decided to also talk about other general Bitcoin things out there, especially the myths and the false narratives that have crept in.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to thinking about what we should do on our show, it doesn't take long to find a topic and realize there's a lot to talk about.
There's quite a lot. Because, like you're saying, every week for me, there's something to unfold. There's something to sort of like share with our users because, I think our product is super amazing, so there's far enough to talk about on a daily basis, so like it being a challenge sometimes just to iron it out, not really, it's just us getting in tune of, okay, this is what we're going to be putting out as a message for our users to get clear. And once we do it, like we feel good about it because at least we've shared, like crucial information about our product. And
given our vision.
Definitely.
I think this is the Centbee Vision Show, right?
Yeah, actually, because it's not just about us selling our product, but we are literally trying to put out the positive message about the industry that we're in.
Yes.
How the technology can actually benefit people.
Exactly. It's not just about making money or scammers. Blockchain is a real technology that can change the world for the good. And of course, our focus is payments. That was what the white paper said. It was the title of the Bitcoin white paper, peer-to-peer electronic cash.
Yeah.
So our vision has always been clear from day one.
Yeah.
We want to use the low-cost digital cash payment system that Bitcoin provides in a way that is legal and regulatory compliant and can bring benefits to billions of people around the world.
Yeah, guys, welcome to another honey pack show of the Centbee Show. Yeah, man, this is another week of awesomeness. We're going to be sharing like a more extensive feature highlight of our shopping, like the cool stuff you can get there. You can also get more information about the industry, like Mr. G said, so stick around and find out, guys. So yeah, Mr. G, we're living in a digital era. You know what I'm saying? And payments have become digital. Everything is moving digital, even money. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. We see how the world is driving to a more digital world in every way.
Yeah.
But of course, payments being that thing that everybody knows, especially in this global world that we live in, people working around the world, traveling, and also just living in their day-to-day lives, wanting to make payments that are not inconvenient or expensive, and cash, physical cash, there's a lot of problems when it comes to physical cash.
There is.
I mean, if you just think about if you're a shop and you are taking cash, you've got to keep that cash somewhere. Security. You can get robbed. If you're carrying cash, it's very easy for somebody to find you and just take your wallet out of your pocket. So cash is always a very inconvenient way of having money, and we talked about people themselves who have to carry cash and purchase things, but also when it comes to money laundering and terrorist financing, cash used in suitcases across borders, capital flight. So physical cash, everybody knows, is something that we now we need to move away from, and that's why digital payments are just becoming more and more a part of our world. And so, of course, when it comes to digital cash on Bitcoin, that is something that if it can genuinely provide digital payments in a transparent, regulatory compliant way at extremely low cost, especially across border, then it's a wonderful technology and something we're pursuing.
Oh, that's cool, man. When we speak of this cash dependency, I think the general idea when we think of people who depend on cash would be like people in informal settlements or lower income brackets. But this sort of covers the entire spectrum, because you find people who are still in the middle and upper class, but they are still not enabled in a sense. They are not activated.
Yes, exactly. That's a great point, because when we think about people who are excluded from digital payments, we always think of it as a socio-economic thing, where it's the people who can't afford it or are in rural areas where they don't have connectivity. But there's a whole lot of people out there. There are many, many teenagers and students who typically don't have credit cards or bank accounts, and they want to also use digital payment methods. But to get those sorts of products, credit cards or whatever it is, there's a barrier to entry there for whatever reason.
There's always a barrier of some sort,
Yes, age being one of them. You know, if you're a teenager, it's hard to get a bank account or something like that, especially in many countries. And so that is also a way that people don't get access, or what we call underbanked or underserved. It's not just a socioeconomic divide, it's also just the age gap. So being able to make digital payments for teenagers and students, instead of them having to use cash as well, is also something that's desirable, and there need to be solutions out there.
Yeah, man. I mean, I agree with that, because it's easy to look at the transition as something that will automatically be adopted, but there is still a divide of some sort, especially in the digital cash activation side of things, and also the mobile adoption. Because even so, there's still a digital divide that's existing.
Yes, there is. But of course, when it comes to digital payments, there's always going to be that requirement. If you want to be in a digital world, you're always going to need to have access to a device or connectivity. But what's interesting and exciting to see is that people don't have laptops or iPads, but they certainly have mobile devices. And they're getting cheaper and cheaper and smarter and smarter. And so a mobile device and connectivity, of course, even into sometimes remote areas or rural areas, satellite, you think about Elon Musk and what's it called? Starlink, exactly. Connectivity now those gaps are closing, and the access to mobile devices, that's also closing. So that creates a perfect storm for us. If you are a payment company that is going to be able to leverage the low-cost capabilities of Bitcoin SV in a regulatory compliant way, and you can provide digital payment systems using a mobile phone, then that, of course, is a great opportunity to do something that can have a lot of good. So we're very excited to be in that space. We see an opportunity. We see young people who, in our words, want to activate their lifestyle. They don't want to be stuck at home. They want to be able to buy things online or shop for things, digital goods and services like Uber or something, or mobile data. And if we can give them a way to do that that's convenient, in a way that works just like cash, where there's no great barrier to entry, and of course the greatest barrier to entry being cost, where with Bitcoin SV we can bring the costs down to a microscopic level, then
literally
then what we've got is a wonderful opportunity to do a lot of good in the world. And so, of course, digital payments are becoming more what people are looking for, and Bitcoin SV on Centbee for teenagers, young students, which is the market that we like, I think is a wonderful combination.
It is, and I'd also suggest guys to download the Centbee app, check it out on the stores. You're missing out if you don't have it by now, guys. Come on now. So yeah, cool. Thanks for that, Ms. G. But let's touch on the low cost that comes with the usage of BSV.
Yes. Yes, exactly. That is one of the most important things about it, is that when we talk about friction or barriers to entry for other services out there, it's not always the access that's not possible, but the friction, which is the cost, the high cost of payments, sending money. So one of the most important things, if you do want to have an impact on people and be able to give them digital payment methods that can improve their lives, is you have to find a way to bring down the cost. And that's the most incredible aspect of Bitcoin and Bitcoin SV, the protocol, the original Satoshi's Vision protocol, is that its nature was to provide a payment system that was extremely low cost That's its number one killer app.
Yeah.
You know, of course, as a ledger that's distributed and transparent and immutable and all those things, there are many other use cases, of course. But even Satoshi, and of course we now know that he had big plans for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
If you watch some Craig Wright videos of way back when, he talks about that if Bitcoin's the future of everything, not just the future of cash.
But it is.
But cash, if you can bring down the cost of payments to a fraction of what it is today, fractions of cents, that can have an incredibly important benefit to so many millions, billions of people around the world who send each other money, send it home. In a foreign country, they're remitting money home, and you can do it at a fraction of a cent. And of course, with Centbee now bundled with ways of spending it, now the cross-border transaction is a microscopic, and then you can just take that cash and spend it on whatever you need. Yeah. And that's an instant transaction
in one platform,
Yes. So the most important feature and why Bitcoin SV is so exciting is that it can finally bring about a system that reduces the friction of sending money around the world and to one another, me and you sitting there, and I just want to peer to peer. Yeah. So to me, that is the most phenomenal aspect around Bitcoin and the original protocol, not all these other cryptos out there trying to be digital gold or whatever it is, like BTC. This is something that has an enormous impact, and what Centbee is built around.
Oh man, that's cool, because I think with the truth that's been repeated daily, weekly on our show, at this point our users should be clear with what's real out there regarding Bitcoin.
I hope so. Yeah, that's our mission, is to clear that up.
Because as I was listening to one of Craig's talks, he's also simple in explaining it, it's pretty straightforward. As much as
sometimes
no, on the
goes above my head.
I guess when he gets all intricate in terms of the subject, he can. But in terms of him explaining what BSV is, it was super clear, because he does even explain that it's not cryptocurrency.
Very much so, yes.
It's digital cash, as simple as that. I don't even need to, sort of go on about what he went into, but just alone catching that made it clear in terms of what we are also doing and the message that we are putting out. Cool. Sure, Ms. G. BSV is awesome. We know that. Low costs, fast transactions. But now, how do people shop on Centbee with BSV?
Yeah, so of course, the payments is one thing. Yeah. Sending money, or what is called remittance, either cross-border or local. Yeah. That's a powerful thing on its own. But Centbee is a wallet for keeping your cash. And we want people to be able to spend their cash, not just send their cash. Yeah. So, of course, for years we spent a lot of effort trying to find merchants that could accept Bitcoin SV as payment, and we could work with the merchant integrators to maybe configure the points of sale to be able to accept Bitcoin payments. But that is an incredibly difficult task, because when it comes to merchants, integrating new payments is costly and time-consuming. Yeah. And they need a reason to do that. They need customers coming to them and saying, we want to spend our money in this form with you. And the merchant will say, well, there's a heck of a lot of you, so okay, I'll go and...
It's more the adoption that will drive this.
Exactly, it's the demand. Yeah. Now, Centbee has been around for years, and there's been very little demand from the general public out there to be able to buy things with their Bitcoin SV, or any crypto for that matter. So we thought, well, then, instead of us going to the merchants and trying to get the merchants on board, why don't we just bring them to us? And that's why we integrated with a number of gift card networks, or gift card aggregators. Yeah. And so that meant that what you can do in Centbee, if you tap on the big shop button that's right on the home screen now, our most important button, because we want you to spend.
Guys, sorry, Ms. G, if you haven't updated your Centbee app, I suggest you do that now, guys. You'll see some awesome changes, UX refinements. You'll see a big button on the home screen just to motivate you to shop. Just click on it and explore.
Yeah. Exactly. You go and explore. What you can do is you can select your country
Yeah.
where you want to spend.
Yeah.
Now, you can be in any country. If you're traveling,
Yeah, that's the best part about Centbee.
that's the best part about
Yeah.
Centbee. BSV is global cash.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was in Dubai at a conference,
Yeah.
and I went into the Dubai Mall, and I took my Centbee wallet.
Yeah.
I went to a few stores, and I bought a few things there.
Yeah.
What a pleasure.
Yeah.
So you can pick your country, and then when you select your country, you'll see a whole list of categories pop up, and you'll be able to see the ways that you can spend your Bitcoin there. Either you can go and purchase mobile recharge, data, airtime,
Groceries.
there's you can get gift cards to spend at grocery stores, tech stores, fashion stores,
Uber Eats.
restaurants, Uber Eats.
Yeah.
You can buy electricity in some countries. So we're trying to now bundle as many ways that you can spend your BSV inside Centbee, because that is what's going to make Centbee truly useful. Where not only can you have it to Centbee as a wallet where you can keep your cash, but you can also use it to spend your cash on real things. Like you said, get an Uber. I got an Uber here this morning, and I used my Centbee to purchase my Uber. So that's the world that we're living in now. If you get a Centbee wallet, you can go and have a look at the countries in the shop, and you can see where you can go and spend your Bitcoin. And of course, a big thing for us now is trying to load that store with as many ways and wait for you to spend your BSV.
Yeah, def, man. Yeah. But with that being said, Mr. G, there's a lot of brands, a lot. So let's explore like what we have there, because we've mentioned Uber Eats, we've mentioned a couple of big brands, you know.
Like recently we publicized Under Armour,
exactly,
McDonald's.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was just looking at the UK stores, there's Tesco's and Sainsbury's,
Target,
Gap, and in Nigeria, I couldn't, there were so many there.
886.
Okay, so for all our Nigerian users, if you guys, have a Centbee wallet, you'll be amazed at all the places that you can go and spend your Bitcoin SV. There's a ton of places there.
Def. I was actually amazed, like, because, over time, like you were saying, with our third parties, like our partnerships that we try to integrate these stores, sometimes you find that certain countries are not available, but, once you sort of like recheck after a while, you find that it's actually populated, like Nigeria, for instance. So yeah, guys, download the Centbee app, shop, explore, and also you'll get to earn rewards. Thanks for that, Mr. G. Yo, guys, we're going to be covering this week's general points on Bitcoin and blockchain. So yeah, Ms. G, as you were at the conference, the Digital Nigeria conference, you were quoted saying, "The true merit of blockchain lies not in being a decentralized, unregulated investment hub, but a solid base for building regulated, low-cost, and cross-border payment systems."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I think the most important word there, and I think a word we can focus on, is the decentralized. Because, and we've touched on it before, and we're always going to touch on it on the show. Well, not every show, but it's one of the most important things that people must understand. Is the decentralization. And so this is something that wherever I go, and in every talk I give that's related to Bitcoin or Centbee, I bring this up because what Bitcoin and crypto became was an industry focused on that word, as though that was the word that was the most important thing that came from Satoshi Nakamoto, even though it's not mentioned, I think, even once in the white paper. The whole notion of decentralization became blown out of proportion. And when we think about Centbee as a digital cash wallet where you can buy things and we can send money to your bank account, the idea of a decentralized system in the way that crypto wants it is not something that could be workable in a commercial world where people want to be able to use products backed by companies that are accountable. So I always bring that up, that the true merit, in other words, the most important thing about blockchain is not just about decentralization and investments. It's a base, it's a foundation to build these low-cost payment systems that we keep talking about and that Centbee is embodying. So, I think this is something that we should constantly mention and constantly try and reinforce, that Bitcoin, as originally invented by the inventor Satoshi Nakamoto, was never meant to be something that was unstoppable or that was decentralized in the way that crypto have now taken it to mean. And it has become their end goal. And I always like to emphasize that.
So it's like they took that term and ran with it because it suited their narrative, basically. But that's not actually what BSV stands for.
Right. Yeah. Yes, and the narrative became that we need to build a system that cannot be stopped because it represents a threat to the powers that be, who in the minds of the crypto anarchists is a system that needs to come down and be demolished. Now, whatever your thoughts are around that, and of course, I even personally think that the financial system, the way it works, and especially the money system, fiat currencies and all that, I believe in that too. I think that fiat currency is flawed, and the problem is that we have central banking and governments that are able to inflate currencies and create inflation and price inflation. And so I of course would also like to see a world that has a system that is honest and sound, just like it was when we had gold money. That's what we want, something that can't be corrupted. And so even though that is a positive thing to try and achieve, the famous Austrian economist Friedrich Hayek said the only way we can take the power of money out of the corrupt hands, although he says government, I don't want to seem anti-government or anything, is by doing it quietly, so they don't notice until it's too late to stop. Now, quietly doesn't mean announcing that you've got a system that they can't stop no matter what, and laughing in their faces and saying things like, this is unstoppable, this is uncensorable. The way to do it is by building something that is legal, so it doesn't draw attention to itself and have law enforcement knocking on the door, and is useful to people. Because if something is legal and useful, it'll become adopted, and the more people use that system, the more they'll find it useful, and then eventually everyone is using it and becomes part of life, and we're all happy with it. That's how you do it. Now, of course, the whole crypto community think that that's not how you do it. They think that Satoshi finally gave us a tool that they can use, that no matter how much force is applied, no matter what, this system can withstand government scrutiny and regulatory scrutiny and control from law enforcement and all that. But that was not what was invented by the creator of Bitcoin. He built a system that was meant to be compliant and provide value to people. Be a useful thing that can improve the lives of people and do it in a safe, secure way. So decentralization doesn't mean everybody for themselves and a system that's just out there that cannot be controlled, but a system that can be actually used by people and normal people without fear that they are doing something illegal or that that they don't have any safety.
So okay, it's quite clear, Mr. G, like what decentralization means in that aspect. But what is being decentralized?
Yes, so the way Bitcoin works is that it consists of a network of what are called mining nodes. And those are basically operators who run machines, who are processing and validating the transactions on the network and through proof of work, securing it. Now, when people look at nodes today, they don't see it as the machines that are now mining and producing coins and processing transactions. But there's also a way to run those nodes where you don't have to mine anything. You don't have to use enormous amounts of electricity to mine coins or mine transactions. You can also have a node which just sits on the network and listens to transactions. So as transactions are flying around the network, what happens is your node, non-mining node, can be connected to that network, and any transaction that comes onto the network, your computer will be able to pick that up and see that. So the two different kinds of nodes, when we talk about nodes today, we're talking about the mining nodes, which do all the work, and then also these non-mining nodes, which all they really do is listen for the network and write the transactions to a hard drive, and now they've got a copy of the Bitcoin ledger.
Okay.
So when people have talked about decentralization and they focused on that decentralization thing, they're talking about making sure that those computers out there are widespread enough and distributed enough and plenty enough so that in the event that law enforcement or whatever it is wants to come and stop things, they won't have the ability to go and turn off every one of those machines to stop the network. So the people in the crypto community who are trying to achieve this decentralization thing believe falsely that if they have these little computers running and they can store the blockchain and they can then verify and validate every transaction that comes in, that they are somehow contributing to the network and the safety of the network, but also the decentralization, where they now become another little outpost on the network, that if government or whatever wants to come and shut down the network, they're going to have to come and find your little machine running in your basement, and that's going to be an impossible thing. And so you'll be able to sustain the network because you're running a node, a listening node.
Yeah.
So this really just draws to attention one of the most important misunderstandings around how Bitcoin works, and especially how these nodes work, where people falsely believe that if they have a node and they can listen to transactions, they themselves will be able to verify the validity of a transaction or a payment, because they've got the blockchain and they can use that computer to now verify that stuff.
So what happens if someone in their bedroom claiming that sort of power, now that means the whole idea of being decentralized from a system that they're trying to take down is literally building the very similar system?
Yes, I mean, that's what they think. They think that they are creating a part of the network that is going to be something that the world can benefit from and they can benefit from as well, that they can sustain the network just by listening in on it, and they can become a bastion, so that if government ever wants to come, the global government wants to come shut down the network, they're going to have to find every last little computer sitting around humming and connecting to the network. So this is that fundamental misunderstanding that those nodes actually do anything. The idea of having a non-mining node on the network is one of the fundamental misunderstandings, that it does anything to help the network.
So it serves no purpose, basically.
Not only does it serve no purpose, but it actually hinders the network and it stops it from being efficient. Because the way Bitcoin was devised was that it would become a network, what's called a small network, a small world network. And this is something you can listen to Craig Wright talk about, and he can explain what he was trying to achieve with miners, is that there would be a small number of very large operators all connected to each other in a very tight network, a very small network, because they would be incentivized to make sure that they're getting information about other transactions that the miners have and other proofs of work that they might have solved. So it would create a small number of entities mining and hyper connected to each other in a small world network. So this is something that was completely misunderstood by crypto, and they thought that the only way that this can succeed is if we have these non-mining nodes. If everybody does their part and runs a little node on the network, they can provide some good. So now, in a world where you don't have a small world network, and you have hundreds of thousands of these little computers out there on the network, it becomes very inefficient for miners to be able to get information from the network, because there's just all these little computers out there relaying information in a very slow way, and so it becomes a very inefficient way of just distributing information around the network. So not only do these non-mining nodes have no effect, provide no benefit, but they also are detrimental to the network. And ultimately what needs to happen in a way that's efficient and to bring down the cost is to have the small world network of few miners actually mining, not just being listening nodes connected to each other. And to sum it up, that was what the term decentralization came to mean, is having these small nodes running a copy of the blockchain and listening to transactions in the hope that would create some sort of benefit.
Oh, all right, cool. That's quite clear. It makes a lot of sense. Sure, guys. I mean, by now you should be at least clued up about which is the real BSV or Bitcoin. So yeah, download the Centbee app, explore it more, just find out how awesome BSV is through Centbee, guys. So yeah, download it, check it out on the app stores. Remember to show some love, subscribe. So yeah, Ms. G, I mean, with that being said, that means there will never be as many nodes around the world. So that, like you said, it's going to be focused on capable corporations who are legal in their operation that will basically handle that.
Exactly. And that is what Satoshi Nakamoto himself even said. He said that eventually the system is going to end up where we have a few mining operators that have large data centers. And so we don't have hundreds of mining operators out there.
Yeah.
We have a few, like in the tens. And so what they do is they will invest enormous amounts of money into building out infrastructure, building out networks, building out processing power, and they will then become the accountable institutions that will now be operating the mining network. And so in the eyes of crypto, that being a terrible thing, because now it's going to be easy for government to come and focus on them and shut them down if there are only a few of them around the world. So this decentralization thing completely took a about face from what Satoshi Nakamoto meant by decentralization, took it to mean that we need to have a network that is widely distributed amongst many, many thousands and millions of operators. The more, the better.
Yeah.
And that to have a system where we have large miners processing large blocks and being connected to each other was extremely undesirable and not what crypto was all about.
Oh, cool. I like it every time you unfold these things because for me, I say it's always a learning curve for me, you know. So I'm sure even the guys out there feel the same. Remember, guys, check out our previous episodes as well. There's quite a lot to learn from that. So yeah, Ms. G, I mean, you spoke of blocks, right? So what is the difference between like the BSV block sizes and the BTC block size?
Yes, now, of course, the different versions of Bitcoin all split away from each other. The Bitcoin SV, which is what we support, obviously, is the original protocol. So it didn't split away or fork away or change from the original Bitcoin. That's what happened to the other versions of Bitcoin, BTC and BCH. And so because the BTC community and the BCH community, they want a decentralized world. And they want to create a system that is maximally decentralized and cannot be stopped. And so that was the most fundamental reason why the different Bitcoins split away from each other, and where Bitcoin SV said, no, we're going to follow Satoshi's vision of many transactions being processed per second at very low cost by large operators. The BTC community said, well, look, we can't have that. We can't have a network that is only supported by a handful of miners, because then we won't achieve what we want, which is a decentralized system that cannot be stopped. And so they said, well, the first thing we must do to make sure that everybody can still have a little hard drive on a machine and run a Bitcoin node and download the copy of the blockchain is that we can't let those blocks get too large. What happened early on in Bitcoin's history is that when Bitcoin first started out and it didn't have any value and people were testing it on the network, it was obviously didn't have any restrictions on how many transactions you could get processed in a block. And so the decision was made early on by Satoshi and in discussion with other developers that what they would do is they would put a temporary block size limit onto the blocks so that they can just stop people spamming the network, as they would say, because there was no economic incentive for miners to run apart from just wanting to support the network and see how it goes. And so, and if there was no restriction on how many transactions could be processed, then of course those guys with their garage, servers running would get overloaded and they wouldn't be able to manage it. So a temporary block size was put onto the blocks in BTC. This was before the splits that happened, when Bitcoin was just Bitcoin. And the reason was just temporary, to stop that from happening. And then later on, once transactions start having monetary value and fees can be earned for miners to now invest, to earn and invest in infrastructure. The idea was then to lift that block size and to make it unbounded. In other words, there is no limit apart from, what miners can handle themselves. And if they are going to be earning lots of fees and they build a huge data center because they want to earn the most fees, well, that's fine.
It's awesome, yeah.
But what happened in Bitcoin? The crypto community said, no, let's keep this block size down to 1 meg. Because by doing that, we will limit the growth of this blockchain. And that means if you're a hobbyist, if you're a guy just wanting to support the network, and you've only got a couple terabytes of hard drive space, you can now run a node. And because the block size is only 1 megabyte, and that's every 10 minutes, and that's because that's how blockchain works. Every 10 minutes, you get another block. And one every 10 minutes, that's a fine rate of growth for a guy who's sitting with his Raspberry Pi or whatever it is.
That's funny.
Well, the reason for that is because they wanted to make sure that everybody could run a non-mining node. And people are not going to be able to afford to run a non-mining node if the blocks are huge and the terabytes just get filled up rapidly. So what happened when BTC split away from the original protocol and became a new technology? Then they said, we're going to keep the blocks small. Now, Bitcoin SV said, well, that wasn't what Satoshi had in mind.
Yeah.
He wanted large blocks, large data centers of miners. Let's lift that block size so that we can make sure that everybody who wants to can create a transaction and put it into the next block.
Yeah.
You see, the problem with BTC is because there's a limited number of transactions that you can put into a block. It means that if you want to make sure that your transaction gets processed in the next block, you have to compete with a whole lot of other people out there too. And the way that you can convince the miner to get your transaction into a block is by raising the fee, so that they can earn as much as possible. So now, of course, BTC has a system now where the fees are ridiculous.
Yeah.
And not only that, but they're saying don't use it for simple transactions. Think of it as gold that you just buy once and you stick in a vault and you don't look at it for 50 years. That is totally opposite of what Bitcoin was meant to be. That's not cash.
Digital cash.
Cash is meant to be low cost.
Yeah.
And blocks were always meant to be unbounded. So because BSV is not trying to be decentralized in that way, I mean, decentralization has a purpose, and we can touch on that. That the point is to make sure that transactions are low so we can have digital cash that's low cost and that can create all these benefits that we've spoken about.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's cool, man. Because, I mean, with information that's out there regarding BTC, like that's what people have taken as the normal narrative of what Bitcoin should be or what it is. But every time we have these chats, it's so wrong. So much like lies are put out there for users just to ingest,
Yes.
There's no truth in the crypto space at this point, if I look at it.
No, and one of the most important things, which is a very interesting thing right now in terms of the copyright behind Bitcoin or who owns the name.
Yeah.
What happens is now Bitcoin, when people talk about Bitcoin, and even people new to the show who listen to us, and when we say Bitcoin, they think, oh, we must be referring to BTC.
BTC, yeah.
Because if you go into the mainstream and you go into the crypto side of things, the BTC crowd will say, no, they are Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And they legally and rightfully own the name.
Yeah.
So you're saying, I mean, just from that point of view, that when you say Bitcoin to most people, they don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
They think you're talking about the crypto that gets traded on exchanges at very high values and gets quoted on, the prices get quoted on Bloomberg or whatever, on CNBC.
Yeah.
So already just from that basis, we're starting with a misunderstanding around what the real Bitcoin is and what it was meant to be.
Yeah.
But I still think that eventually people will figure out that just having a digital token that you can collect is not as useful as low-cost digital cash. And we'll eventually see Satoshi's vision for what it is, and through Centbee be able to experience it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the way I look at it, like Satoshi's vision is in touch with the real world, what's happening, like trying to solve actual use case issues that people have globally. This is not just some bedroom project of a programmer just pushing his ideology just to benefit. Because if you look at it like from the BTC end, it was more, cultish movements that were being pushed instead of a holistic movement of saying there's a problem that needs to be solved that can benefit everyone. Yeah, so thanks for that, Ms. G. But can you explain what is decentralization for?
Yes, and this is now, again, something that we must always bring up.
Yeah.
Because to now dispel the myth around decentralization, we're going to have to explain, what Satoshi meant by decentralization and where it adds value.
Yeah.
Now, of course, the one aspect of decentralization that Bitcoin had an intent to create was the fact that when you have a network, and if you have a single server, let's say, that's running, and all the information is on that server, and that server goes down, well, now the system is down. The system doesn't work. So typically what you'll have is you'll have distributed servers. You'll have servers with the same information replicated around, and the network will connect them, and people who are now using information can connect to that network, and if one server goes down, there's another server.
That's actually funny, Mr. G, because just from what you're explaining, the analogy of decentralization is quite clear because it's like taking it away from a central point, sort of like having backup plans instead.
Backup plans,
yeah,
exactly.
That's so funny. That's
yes,
really funny.
That's a very important part about a network.
Yeah.
It's something that you have to build in by default. The internet is decentralized in a way.
Exactly.
I mean, of course, there are still internet service providers that can go down, and then your internet connection goes down.
Yeah.
But if you have a system that, websites, banking systems, whatever you access online, they typically have servers, multiple servers, maybe in different zones. We use AWS, and we have different zones for all our servers.
Exactly.
And the reason for that is because if one zone goes down, we've got another zone that can pick up, and the system can continue. Yeah. So Bitcoin is exactly the same. Because we have multiple miners out there all storing a copy of the blockchain, or specialized companies that can store copies of the blockchain, then if one part of the network goes down, then the other part will pick it up. And so that's really the basic understanding around decentralization. But then the other form of decentralization, which we've touched on when we've talked about the peer-to-peer aspect of Bitcoin, is that decentralization means that people can still pay each other and send each other money, but without having to connect to a centralized server to process that payment, at least not to process, but to verify that payment in a way. Because, in a peer-to-peer cash system such as Bitcoin, what I can do is we can be disconnected from the network temporarily, and then I can send you a payment, and your device can accept that payment and verify it to a level of risk that is acceptable to you. And then later on, you can go back to the network and connect to it and sync everything up and settle everything and get up to date. So the other point about decentralization was the point in the title, which is to enable the peer-to-peer method of being able to paying each other on the edges of the network, where you're not inside it. You can be just on the edge where you're detached slightly. And then when you come back to a connection, you can then sync up and make sure everything's fine. So the two aspects of decentralization that really what Satoshi intended was just for redundancy in terms of the network, and as a description for the peer-to-peer nature of Bitcoin with payments. But it was never intended as what it is today in crypto, which is to create a system that cannot be stopped because it has all these little Hydra heads popping up out there.
Like, the power's deception is crazy, because the same words are misused. I mean, in another aspect, it's misused because you just clarified what decentralization means. And for me, I'm saying, without even having to be biased, it makes clear sense based on how it should be. I mean, there shouldn't be any reason for people to doubt why BSV is the future. Come on, guys. Download the Centbee app, explore, find out more. Awesome, thanks. Thanks for that, Mr. G. That was pretty clear. So yeah, we're going to be jumping into this week's questions and feedback from our users on socials. So yeah, our first question comes from Hillmark on X. He says, just because there's a high flow of Nigeria wanting to use your platform, you went on and increased the BSV rate in higher value. How can you be buying BSV at this rate?
Yes, now we launched our top-ups in Nigeria a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And what happened was we have now been seeing how people are using it.
Yeah.
But also, importantly, we are now having to source BSV from Nigeria.
Yeah.
And so we are seeing that there's a particular rate, a very high demand in Nigeria for BSV.
Yeah.
And so when we looked at the rates that are being quoted on exchanges, what's happening is that they are using the official exchange rates that are put out. And when we looked at how the rates that are actually being used in Nigeria, we saw that there's a big disconnect.
Okay.
And we were trying to source Bitcoin at the official rate, and we just found that we couldn't. And so we then had to adjust the pricing on Centbee to then match what the actual market rate is in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Now, of course, when we first opened the top-ups, we were still figuring that out. And so a lot of Nigerians thought this was wonderful. You could pick up BSV price lower than anywhere else.
Jeez.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot of demand for BSV there. But we then realized now trying to source BSV at that price was an impossible task. And we've had to now match it with the prices that we're actually sourcing the BSV for.
Yeah.
So we understand that in Nigeria there seemed to be a massive spike in the price of BSV on Centbee. But what that really reflects now is the actual price that it costs to acquire BSV in Nigeria.
So basically, we were giving our users BSV at a lower rate.
Absolutely. There was a great big discount there, which everyone took advantage of, and they were hoping that that's how it would stay. But we've now come closer to the actual rate, and it'll probably stick around this rate for a while.
Sorry, Hallmark. Sorry, man. We just had to fix it was a bit of a glitch and a bit of a benefit to the rest of the users, but you still get to enjoy low-cost transactions and shopping there. So
yes, exactly. I think that, it doesn't matter what price BSV is. It can be 1 cent or it can be $1 million. The fact is that you will always be able to use it as cash.
Yeah.
You can spend $1 on something and know that you're going to have a very low fee. So it doesn't matter what the price of BSV is, unless you're trying to speculate, of course. Yeah. And Centbee is not a speculation wallet.
It's not.
It's a digital cash wallet for spending. Yeah. But the price right now for anyone who had BSV in Nigeria, they're going to appreciate the big spike because now their BSV is worth more and they can buy more things than with Centbee.
Cool. Sure stuff. Thanks for that, Mr. G. Guys in Nigeria, remember to top up, shop, explore the Centbee app, yo. Remember to also comment, subscribe, show some love, yo. You know the drill by now. So yeah, Mr. G, stepping into our second question from Navid, also posted on X. So he's asking, if I owe Bob $10 and I send him $10 in BSV, and now he has $9.5 in his wallet, is this because the price went down, or do I still owe Bob?
Yeah, so, this is a very important thing for people to also realize is that they don't have $10 in their wallet. They've got $10 of BSV at the current market rate in their wallet. So they will always have the fixed amount of BSV in their wallet. And if they send a fixed amount of BSV to their friend Bob, then Bob is going to have that fixed amount of BSV. But because BSV works like a foreign currency and it fluctuates on a daily basis according to the market rate, what's going to happen is the exchange rate into dollars or naira or yen or pounds, that is going to fluctuate throughout the day. So you have to remember you don't have dollars in your wallet. You've got Bitcoin SV.
Digital cash.
BSV digital cash.
So yeah, remember guys, digital cash, BSV is the way to go. So yeah, I will always repeat, download the Centbee app, check it out on the stores, guys. So Mr. G, I'm going to be stepping into our feedback on our socials. So Robert Tavera, he's saying, impressive. The idea of becoming a social media for money adds an interesting dimension to their innovative approach.
Yeah, that's ChatPay. Use ChatPay, everyone. It's a fun way to send money.
Oh yeah, you send money through chats, like you stay connected to your friends, low cost transactions. Come on guys, you're missing out if you don't have Centbee by now. So yeah, our second feedback comes from Mark. So Mark on X is saying global financial accessibility requires local and cross-border payment networks. Gamaroff and Centbee lead. Watch blockchain trailblazers for details. So yeah, man. Also, check out our socials. Yeah, I mean, that's the best way also to stay updated with what we are busy with. Checking out our CEO at digital conferences. We are speaking about BSV. So yes, just follow us on socials there, guys. So yeah, our third feedback comes from Veronica. She's saying Centbee's commitment to building efficient, low-cost payment system is commendable. Ambassador Gamaroff's efforts in fostering financial inclusion in Africa are pivotal. So yeah, shout out to Veronica, yo. Thanks for the love, guys. Yeah, remember to follow us on socials, download the Centbee app, and also remember to back up your wallet, guys. It's important to back up your wallet. You don't want to lose your digital cash. So yeah, cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's thanks for the show, Kage. I appreciate it. I always enjoy talking about the myths around Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I hope that cleared up some of the misconceptions out there.
It did for sure. So yeah, thanks for an awesome show, guys. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. And I want to thank everybody for tuning into the Centbee Show. Please come back soon.